Okay, Joseph, I want to turn it back to you to something you mentioned before the break, the idea of Erica Stefanko taking the stand, telling her side of the story. Now, at this point, we have no indication that she would do that. But you had mentioned that this might be the right move in this case. So what is going on at this point? What are the conversations that she might be having with her attorneys? And although we don't know at this point what she's doing, we've seen cases before where we're surprised and the defendant does decide to take the stand. So walk us through what they might be thinking at this point.
Sure. Well, a good criminal defense lawyer needs to start with clearly sitting down with a client and going through what she would say and how she would say it. Then they have to compare those facts, if you will, or that narrative to the long list of the evidence you have, which means the police reports, the evidence on the scene, as well as prior statements from other witnesses. You have to do the compare and contrast thing because you're looking to see if there's any contradictions. One thing you do not want to do when doing this kind of work is have to explain a lot of facts away that are contrary to your position. In fact, you want to find a version that allows you to admit most of the evidence in the case because it's easier for the jury to stay on board. So again, sitting down with her and going through to find out what her version is going to be would be critical. Now, let me say this. Why is it that the government is going through that long list of what they found at the evidence scene or the crime scene when the government's version is that she merely made a phone call about having a fake pizza delivered or real pizza to a fake address? I mean, that is an inconsistent story. And if I was defense, I'd be all over that. Why are they wasting your time? And there's only one answer for that usually. And it's because they want to intimidate you and get you horrified and mortified. They want to get you emotional. They show you all the ways that the person may have or could have been killed. Your imagination will take over and you'll start listening to their narrative. You should be really skeptical about why the government wants you to see all the horror things so that you don't focus on what they cannot prove. And that is the horror in the situation is what they can't prove. And they're not even willing to admit it.
It sounds not only like a criminal defense attorney, but maybe what we'll hear in the closing arguments from the defense. I'm curious if they'll echo a lot of those statements. Maybe they're watching Law and Crime, although maybe they shouldn't. Nobody involved should really be involved. Okay, now let's take a break. And by the way, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Well, I'll tell you what. We actually had a situation earlier on in the week that one of the jurors, a family member, was watching Law and Crime's broadcast and thought that, the juror asked, "Hey, do you see me on the broadcast? I don't want to be seen." That juror was excused. So if you're part of the jury, you shouldn't be watching this. Stay away. Although, we'll take anybody else. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, I'm keeping a careful eye on the courtroom feed. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned here on Law and Crime. We'll be right back.